A legendary weekend in the Lou. PGA Tour champions compete in the Stifel Charity Classic, presented by Compliance Solutions, September 4th through 7th, and COAR. Perform live with your Friday ticket. Visit StifelCharityClassic.com today.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome into this edition of the Card Central Postgame Show. It is presented by DraftKings, as is all the content here on STL Sports Central. And to you, that's DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Brenden Schaeffer. He's Grant Salsman. You are St. Louis Cardinals fans, and we are talking about a Cardinals loss tonight as Sandy Alcantara. When he pitches against the Cardinals, he's great. When he pitches against everybody else, he's not. I don't know really what else to say other than that, but this is the second time this season, Grant, that I've watched Sandy Alcantara take on the Redbirds and look like Sandy Alcantara of old, pre-surgery, Cy Young Sandy. Tonight, that's kind of what it felt like again. His pitches were moving. Yeah, great secondary stuff. He's dotting up 99. Cardinals lose this one. The offensive contributions of the last two nights, they were fun to watch. They couldn't sustain it for a third straight day today, and you get the result that you get with the Cardinals unable to sweep the series. Grant, your instant reaction to the kryptonite that is Sandy Alcantara for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Maybe one of the most predictable losses I've seen in a while. I think it was about 2:00. I looked at the probable for the Marlins today, and I said, "Oh, Sandy Alcantara's on the bump. This will."
Don't look at the ERA because that part doesn't matter.
They'll have to win this game 2-1, 3-2, and while the strike zone was bad,
yeah, people talking about that.
It didn't matter at the end of the day, honestly.
Right. Yeah, this one wasn't particularly close by the time it was over, and like even for a game that. It was 5-2 for a while. The Marlins tack on one more. They make it 6-2. It felt like it was worse than that. I don't know how to articulate that. I don't know if maybe Cardinals fans out there was it just me, or did that kind of feel that way where it's like, they're not going to get over the hump today? Like once it was 4-2, 5-2, you're going, yeah, we know what this one is.
After Palante gave up that home run in the 6th, it was over. I was just waiting for the end of the game to do this because there was nothing else positive that was going to be added from that game after that home run by Palante.
And like, is that just confirmation bias though? Because we thought, okay, here we go again. Maybe it is some confirmation bias, but also I don't always feel that way watching a Cardinal game. Yeah. There are times where I go, we've seen a little bit of this, a little bit of that tonight. There might be a spark. Hey, they might be able to do something, drum something up late against the bullpen. I swear there are times where that happens.
Yes,
It did not happen that way tonight. I didn't feel like that was coming tonight.
No, I didn't feel like that was coming at all tonight. It was the last two games were fun, but this felt like more of who the Cardinals have been the last few weeks of just a boring, kind of depressing ball club who's in game one. What are we, 140 something? 130 something?
No, it's not that many, but it's a lot.
130 something. Yeah, 140. What am I doing? Sorry. 130
simultaneously, it's been a lot, but also kind of not enough. Like, can we get through this thing?
Yeah, and it's a team that's given up, and that doesn't have a lot.
When you say that, what do you? We don't say sorry. I want to explore it. What is it?
Yeah, given up. I don't like. It's a team that's out of the fight. They don't have any. They once you put them down, they're out. That's how a lot of baseball teams are at this point. There's not a lot of fire in their bellies to come to the ballpark every day at this point, really. And as sad as it is, I just think that's how it goes when you're in game 120 something, 130 something, and you're out of the playoff race. I mean, there's not a lot of fire left. And when they get put down 5-2, I don't think this team's coming back. Whereas maybe in May when they were hot and things were looking well, they were coming back from games and winning games. But now at 5-2, it feels like the Cardinals of last season again, where 2-3 run deficits are insurmountable.
Yeah, and like I'll push back. I don't really agree with the premise of like they couldn't have comebacks within a game. I felt like with Sandy Alcantara pitching tonight, that was the predictable aspect of this, where I'm like, you could tell me his ERA was 16 and not 6 coming into the game, and I would have said it doesn't really make a difference. The guy that's going to come in and show up to the ballpark is going to put these guys down, and he did. I think the Cardinals could still have games the rest of the way where they'll battle back.
Yeah.
Like I feel like game 1 of this Marlins series, it took until the 5th inning to get to Yuri Perez, and he kind of he would hit a batter or throw a wild pitch or walk another guy, and they were able to capitalize in that game. And then yesterday they just got a bunch of hits and kind of death by 1,000 cuts was sort of the deal for Edward Cabrera yesterday. But I wrote about it for STLSportsCentral.com yesterday and Monday, the first time with consecutive 7+ run outputs since June 28th and 9th. That was during the Guardians series. So to your point, 6-2 type of outcome is a lot more similar to what the Cardinals have been doing recently, unfortunately. I try to avoid broad strokes from any one game because this is like today is not the picture of who the Cardinals are.
No.
But neither is yesterday and neither is Monday. The week is the picture of who the Cardinals are. They'll play 2 games where you go, there it is, they're putting it together. And then they'll have one where they might have 2 or 3 where they don't put it together. And then they'll have 1 or 2 where they do. That's who the Cardinals are. It's never just that one day. It's like there's just enough to go, oh, hey, they're starting to find it a little bit. Then they're not. And then they'll start losing. Go, wow, it's the worst team I've ever seen. And then they're not. No, they're somewhere in the middle. That is like the dictionary definition of a 500 team. And that's kind of where they are. You can evaluate why that might be. Justin mentioning the walks. Palante has really struggled. What do we evaluate about him, Grant? Because the ERA is over 5. It's been over 5 for the last couple of outings, and you're not seeing a ton of improvement necessarily. Like you can blame strike zone tonight, but at the same time, when you walk batters, Cardinals walk with 7 guys tonight, you put yourselves in position to have the type of outcome that you had tonight for St. Louis.
Yeah, and Palante seems a little bit like an anomaly because at one point you could say, I mean, on paper, this guy doesn't have the stuff. He doesn't really have the stuff to be a great major league pitcher. He has to be perfect in his outings to be a good major league pitcher. But then you look last time out against the Marlins, 7 innings, 1 hit. He was pretty great that night. But it just feels like this is with Andre Palante as a starter, more of the norm you would get this season. And if he's in the rotation next season is a 4.5 ERA or so. Like, I don't think that's crazy to say.
I'd take 4.5. I would commit crimes for that right now, but he's at 5.17. So
yeah, I'm just saying 4.5 still isn't very great either, though.
Nah, but I'll take it from my 5.
Starter, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But is he your 5 next year? That's what I'm saying. Like, would he be considered your 5th?
Now he's your 4 out of 4. You've only got 4.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Michaelis will be gone, and the rest of the guys are here. They're under contract. They're in the organization. Is Quinn Matthews ready? That's going to remain to be seen. They don't really have a lot of irons in the fire when it comes to healthy ones. There are guys you're going to add to the 40-man roster, which is part of that whole 40-man crunch thing. Like, yes, you have to protect the guys from AA that are still on the way. But also, when you're adding guys to the 40-man, you kind of look and go, well, why has it been 5 years and we're not seeing the progression a little bit? Like, that's probably something you can attribute to previous regime. And the answer is similar to, a lot of the conversations we had been having about the development system was lean. They didn't have the coaching. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the development staff. Chaim Bloom was allowed to come in and hire some of those positions and beef it up. And so now it's going to take a little bit of time. But what that could mean for 26 is having a decent number of guys who spent this year in Springfield, and next year they'll be in Memphis, but they're not necessarily on the doorstep contributing to St. Louis, but they'll be on the 40-man. So like I refuse to believe there's a crunch because you can find the spots for these gentlemen and Weatherholt and Quinn Matthews, in my humble opinion. But reality is that when it comes to Palante, I think this is a relevant conversation because who else do you turn to? I mean, if they're not going to spend up in free agency, which I'm skeptical that they will, you probably stick with Palante. And he's given you those little breadcrumbs where you're like, that's the Palante. I don't think he's a reliever ever again. Yeah. Miles does that as well. I don't think Palante's a reliever, though. Like, I think when he flamed out at the beginning of last season, it was because he was doing a lot of the same things that he's doing right now, giving up a bunch of contact, walking too many guys, 3 walks tonight. And when you come in like I'm the fireman and I'm hoping I get a ground ball double play and the contact goes through the infield because you're going to give up contact, it's like that's what you're trying to do. Suddenly you're like, oh, this guy stinks. Well, he did what you asked him to do. He's just not suited to the role. Palante at his best is able to kind of figure it out over 6 innings and have a couple innings where he does have to dodge traffic. It's like a game of Frogger. But a lot of times prior to the last, I would say 6 to 7 to 8 weeks, he's been pretty good at doing that as a big league starter over the course of his career. It's all kind of crumbling for him right now, and he's not been able to make the adjustments, which I think is a big part of this.
I'll just say, and the chat's saying it too, I'm just not sure if Andre Palante is that guy. I don't know. Let's say you're going next year with Sonny Gray, Matthew Liberatore, Michael McGreevy, Andre Palante, and name your veteran starting pitcher who hopefully will be your 3 or 4. Let's just say that's your situation.
Okay, real quick. What are you spending on a 1-year contract for that player just so people can paint a picture in their mind? Let's say they're signing that veteran. He's going to be their 3.5 starter, their 3.5 starter. What's the salary?
What can Ghana sign for this year?
5. It was such a good deal. I think it was 5.
I would say you're signing a guy. I'm not saying you're going to sign a guy that's Jose Quintana, but I think you sign a guy $5 to $6 million
to that contract and hope he does the Quintana thing. Yes. That I actually completely agree with you on. Continue.
But I still think, let's say you have that. Let's say that's your rotation or your 5. I don't think you feel very good. I don't think – I think, one, we're still unsure about Michael McGreevy, and I think there will be growing pains the rest of the season and into next season with Michael McGreevy, which if he's your 5, that's fine. You know, it's a young guy. He's going to have – but then if you have that, then piled with Andre Palante, who could have a 5 ERA too, we're getting flashbacks of this season with Fedde and Michaelis. So I think if the front office says, hey, you know, we want to be somewhat competitive this year, having Andre Palante, assuming that's your 4, I don't think it's very smart to have him back in the starting rotation if you think you can get 2 other guys that will be better.
Yeah, and like my thing is he's making like $1.5 million or something, or give or take. For me, he'll be an ARB 2. He'll probably get a raise because that's what happens through the ARB process. But he'll make like $2.5 million, 2.75, and I'll pay him that if I'm the Cardinals because, like, you don't have the horses and you don't have the prospects that are ready. That being said, spend some money in free agency too. It could be difficult to identify. Maybe, Grant, it comes via trade where you say we're trading for a guy who's also not proven that he like has to have a big league rotation spot, but he'll come into spring competing for one, and that pushes Palante a little bit, which is not to say that Palante is not putting everything he's got into being great, but he hasn't been great. And so it is a performance business at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And so what would make me more comfortable from like the Cardinal fan perspective is you go sign that Quintana guy for $5 or $6 million, and then maybe you trade for somebody that's a younger, years of control, not proven, for like someone of the Liberatore caliber with how we viewed Liberatore before this season. Somebody who maybe like, and I keep talking about names like Reed Detmers, but somebody who they kind of flamed out as a starter, but he's still 25 and you can, you might have to give up something real to get him, but like trade for somebody that Chaim Bloom and Rob Cerfolio have identified and say, that's going to be our target. And we're going to bring him in. And that's when you add him to Palante and the $6 million free agent, you've got 6, and you don't have to push Quinn Matthews. That's what I would love to see them do, because I don't think they're going on a spending spree, but I also don't think they have to be terrible next year, because guess what? For as frustrating as this season has been, they're not terrible this year. They're just kind of mid, and
they're
there's
average.
Some value to being mid. It's okay to be mid when you came in thinking we're going to do a bare bones operation and your Vegas win total was 76.5 and they're going to win 79 or 80 games. Like, if that's what it is what it is. But I would also like to see them not say, okay, since that happened in 2025, we're going to need to lose 95 next year. And we're just going to, go bare bones. I don't think you have to do that. I think you can say we've got a smart front office coming in. We are going to try to identify some players and turn this thing over, churn the roster a little bit from the 40-man down to the 26-man, down to the 5-man rotation. You can do some things like that and survive.
And here's what I think this is a situation that I hope happens in this offseason. The whole word this year was runway. And guys like Andre Palante and Matthew Liberatore have been given their runway in the rotation. Obviously, Sonny Gray is a staple of the rotation. If he's on the team, he's in the rotation. Michael McGreevy, young guy. If he's on the 40-man roster, I think you've seen enough of him that he's in the rotation. I'm just, Libby, I think, in this runway time, Papa Smurf, has done enough to be in the rotation. I don't think Cardinals fans would be that out of whack about it. Andre Palante, I think, has gotten his runway, and I don't think he's been good enough to earn a rotation spot next year if what you're saying happens.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that.
And maybe it is like you said, hey, this is a guy we think has some good stuff, but he's struggling. Let's trade it for your guy that also has some good stuff, but maybe needs a change of scenery. I don't know. But I think that like you said, last year the Cardinals won 83 games. This year they'll win 79 to 80. I mean, it's not a crazy jump to win 7 more games in a season from this year to next and possibly be in a playoff spot. You just need a little bit of better pitching. I mean, look right now. Let's say in that 7-game stretch where Eric Fetty was unpitchable and the Cardinals lost almost every one of his starts. If Michael McGreevy, let's call it 5 games. If Michael McGreevy starts all 5 of those and wins 2 or 3, you're saying, oh, wow, the Cardinals can make the playoffs right now. They're 2 games out. So it's not a drastic measure next year to be playoff contenders. I think it just needs a little commitment from the front office.
Yep, and we'll see what they decide that they end up wanting to do about that. Hunter going, does anyone still think this is a playoff team? No, because the consistency just isn't going to be there. We can talk until we're blue in the face about, okay, they won 2, maybe they can now win 5. It's just not going to be what this year is. We're evaluating individual players, I think, more than anything, Grant. And that brings me to a comment that was mentioned early in the show. I'm going to scroll back to find it from Matthew. What do we think about Jordan Walker? I got a DM from a Cardinal fan tonight where we kind of been going back and forth about this 40-man roster crunch idea and the guy would kind of say, here's a list of players that I think, 40-man roster, you might be DFA candidates. And everybody's kind of got their views on that. I got a DM where he said, I'm adding Walker to the list. And I said, I hear you. That's not a thing. I understand the frustration, though. What do we make of Jordan Walker? Because he will have spurts where he looks like he's putting it together, and then he will look as though he does not belong on a baseball field or in a batter's box. I mean, and again, they lost 6-2 tonight, but the final swing of the game was not unexpected with the type of vibe we're seeing from some of the ABs right now from Jordan, which is, it sucks to say because I think everybody's pulling for him. He did have a hit tonight, but the other 3 at-bats result in a strikeout.
I think it's another guy that just doesn't have it. You hoped he had it, and I don't know if it's poor development, but at some point, Brendan, guys are not what they were meant to be. Everyone put him as this top-tier prospect. He's not that guy, and not everybody is. And it's tough to make a guy who you thought was the guy that's not the guy back into the guy. I know that's a lot of words, but
it's a lot of guy. I heard guy a lot of times.
Yeah, he's not him. And I think that you'll see he should be a rotational outfield piece right now. And as tough as that is to say,
I don't think it's going to work. He can't rotate because to get out of it, he's almost got to play through it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what's he getting out of? He's never had it. I think that's it. If
that's not all the way true. If I may, his rookie OPS, I think I know it by heart. I believe it was 787. And that was a year in which he was sent to AAA during that. Yeah. Remember, he came up, opening day started, and then I think it was there in San Francisco, and his defense was such that Ollie just wouldn't play him. And so sat for a couple days, and then they sent him down. His OPS that year in 465 plate appearances and 117 games was 787. What I wouldn't give to see Jordan Walker have a 787 OPS, but he did it for, like, just to put it in perspective, that was 2023.
Yeah.
465 plate appearances. Since then, so over the last 2 seasons, he's had 468 plate appearances. So that season was as many plate appearances in the big leagues as he's had in the 2 years since. So it's not a nothing sample, but it's also, it feels like a long time ago when you're watching tonight's game, for example.
But my thing, I guess, to my point of him.
Whose point is
having what?
Yeah. Because you said to everybody's point, and I said, whose point is
about Jordan Walker of him
what
not
is
having it is, it's one thing if he was red hot in June and now it's August. It's like, okay, he just needs to hit out of it. Like, it's gonna happen eventually. Now you're going, it's a whole season of him not hitting out of it, 2 years of not hitting out of it. At some point, I don't think he's ever going to hit out of it, and that personally is where I fall now on Jordan Walker. I do think, and I don't think they'll give up on him. I think a trade is probably the best for his career, but I don't think the Cardinals would do that.
Nope. I will, out of my cold dead hands. I think people like to use that phrase and bring up a former Mo phrase. Here's my thought with that is, like, you could do the Tyler O'Neill trade. You could do the Dylan Carlson trade. We got a comment here comparing Walker to both of those two players. I don't think that benefits the Cardinals, and this is the business of Cardinal baseball, not the, find Jordan Walker a soft landing spot company. I want Walker to succeed. I need to take another year of, like, former regime is gone. Heimblum is truly installed. Mo is not part of it. What do they want to do with Jordan Walker? Can they try to figure something out with him? And the answer is no, because Brant Brown's probably still your hitting coach next year. They had great things to say in January about, what Brant Brown was doing with Jordan Walker. It was a lot of hype. It was a lot of happy talk. Here we are, 8 months later, 7 months later, and Jordan Walker's OPS is 600 for the season, and he's striking out more than his fair share, we will say. And it doesn't look consistent either. So that's where it's like, I don't know. I hear everything you're saying, but for me, especially if you're not looking at 2026 as being like a year, he's a guy that'll get a longer leash than most for me because of the pedigree, because we did see it when he was a rookie, and he had through the minors, he was unbelievable. So somewhere in there, I think it's up here, and he's got to find the way to fight through that mentality thing.
I agree with that. And because, he has all the tools to be a great player, but just to liken this to other sports, so did Jamarcus Russell for the Raiders. A lot of guys have every tool look like. Jordan Walker, if you just saw him, you'd be like, oh my God, this guy is a stallion. He should be an amazing baseball player. And he hasn't yet. But my question for you is, okay, I do really think the Cardinals and Heimblum are going to do enough to where this team should at least be competing for a wild card spot next year. The team this year is technically competing for a wild card spot. I think next year they're going to do enough to at least be in the mix, or expect to be in the mix. So let's say by May, June, the Cardinals are okay. They're above average to okay. They're winning some games. They're in a playoff spot. Maybe they have a 3-4 game lead in the wild card.
Kind of like Jordan this year. That's what happened this year, largely.
But Jordan Walker's still playing, and he's still playing poorly. Okay. Do you yank the chain on him? Do you turn him into a backup player? Do you turn him into a every third day guy? What's the situation at that point? What do you think?
I don't think there's value to him as like a bench bat for the next 5 years. I think it's either going to happen or it's not with the Cardinals. And, to the point that was made by someone in the comments, and I don't blame Ollie for this, but there was a comment that said, hey, he has a couple good games and then he'll sit. And then, he comes back and looks kind of like he did tonight, which again, he did have a hit tonight. And so, there's been some positive things from him recently, but the ones that aren't hits, again, it's approach based, which to me, like the physical tools, I don't really question, but is he questioning his own swing? Is he questioning his own approach? Why is it there are pitches that are taken that are going to be the best pitch that you'll see in the AB? It's just what it is. And then he flails at a slider low and away. Tells me that there's just approach wise, it's not. But Brant Brown can tell him what to do till he's blue in the face, and that's true of any hitter, right? I hate to do the hitting coach thing and say, oh, it's that guy's fault, because at the end of the day, he can't get into the box for them. So, and look, we kind of do, even though Jordan Walker is 22 years old, he's a young guy. And so I want to continue to wait and see with the guy. These are grown adults in their profession. So it's not like they're kids. Like, we have to, at a certain point, you do have to perform. And that's exactly, I think, what Ollie Marmol would say if he were sitting here as the third square in this video. He would, at a certain point, it is the big leagues. There's no level higher than this one. And so you do have to be able to perform with whatever word you want to call it, the runway, the leash, the whatever. It's, you have to be able to perform at a certain point in time. And so with Jordan Walker, pedigree is only going to get him so far, and hopefully he's able to find and fight through that. The rub right now is, I think what he needs is what Gorman's been getting, is to play literally every single day. Like, I'm no longer a subscriber in, it actually can help Walker to play twice, take a day, work with Brant Brown underneath the bowels of the stadium, take a day. I actually think no. Like, I think we just got to see it. He's got to play or not play. Because honestly, when they started doing that for Gorman, it did seem to work. He's been a much better performer offensively. Can't speak to his third base defense. I haven't enjoyed that. But offensively, he has really kind of shown what he's all about, which we knew was in there because we saw it 2 years ago. Same thing with Walker. We saw it 2 years ago. I'm stubborn. I refuse to believe that it's not still in there. But is this environment going to be what gets it out of him? And if not, why not? Because why do we keep saying that about Cardinals? Oh, it needs a change of scenery. Well, why? Can they figure it out with one of these guys? I'm going to be stubborn when it comes to Jordan Walker. We'll see what the Cardinals are. I'll let you respond to that, Grant, but I do need to do a little bit of business and let people know that, when it comes to watching some baseball and kicking back in the summertime, there's really nothing better. And it's the simplest way in terms of how to get in on the action. All you got to do is download the Pick Six app from DraftKings. Crazy simple. Pick more or less on the stats for two more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Pick Six is available right here in Missouri, so don't miss out on the fun and don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick Six, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of just $5. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports, all one word, for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
So, Grant, on Walker, where are you at? I mean, you've kind of laid your foundation of, I just don't think he has it. But with the pedigree of the draft pick, with what we've seen from him in the distant past, we've seen a Gorman revival this year. Walker was good in that same 2023. Is there any hope?
I think so. Okay, he's 23 years old. He'll turn 24 in May. And I want to, before I get to that other point you made, why do some guys need that change of scenery? Well, to be fair, Tyler O'Neill has been great since he left the Cardinals. He did have one good season up there in Boston. Dylan Carlson's been nothing since he left the Cardinals. So I would say with those two guys, I'll say Tyler O'Neill was pretty on par to what he was with St. Louis. He didn't get better.
That's fair.
He's gotten worse lately. Dylan Carlson has just not been good at all. So with Jordan Walker, I agree with you. I think it's there. I don't know if he can get so mentally out of his brain to find it.
It's the mentality of it all.
Yeah.
How do you rebuild yourself as a player and then next year go, it didn't work, I have to rebuild myself again as a player? That could be exhausting, especially when your whole career you were just not only good but great everywhere you went before the big leagues.
Yeah, and he was dominant everywhere he went. Yeah. And now it's just fallen off. And when you're that guy and then you're all of a sudden not at that level anymore, I think that's for sure a mentally exhausting thing. But I do agree with this as well. This will be his third year in the majors. Maybe you can get this excuse for one more, but if we're at this point next year, or even in June next year, saying Jordan Walker's right there, he's right there, he's going to get it, then it's he's not right there.
Well, they're not going to be able to give him enough playing time next year to do this again if he's OPSing 605. You know, that's the problem. Is maybe what he needs is the time. But we did do this with Dylan Carlson, and I was right front center. I'm like, just give Dylan the opportunity, let him have that consistent, play him every day, and see what he brings. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a realm in which his confidence would have gotten to a point where you could have gotten that greatness out of Dylan Carlson. But probably not, because we're seeing a sample size still, right? He's gotten to catch on with the Orioles. He's gotten to – it's just not been there consistently. And so maybe that is just the same story with Jordan Walker, and it's a conversation of how many times do you continue to lean back to like the draft status when you say he's got to be our right fielder? I can tell you how many times the current manager does it. He doesn't. He said, like, Alec Burleson's who I'm playing in the corner outfield spot, and Newbar is going to be another one. And so that's where Walker's kind of found his squeeze. I'm not even saying all he's wrong, because the other guys have demonstrated it's the big leagues and they're playing better baseball. And so that's where it does get very difficult. Do you use a September to say now it doesn't matter? And hey, you know, prove the draft lottery stock, potentially get a few more ping pong balls. Like, I don't know. And I don't think Ollie Marmol wants to manage that way. And I don't think there's anybody asking him to manage that way. That's like, even if there was somebody from above that says, hey, here's how we should do it, he's not in charge of the team. Like, there's a lame duck in there, and the next guy is going to take his office soon. And then we can start, you know, performing like adults in an organization. But until then, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Hanging out.
There's whispers, and this is whispers, but Ollie Marmol is not guaranteed a job next season. I would be really surprised if Chaim Bloom fired him, but I'm just saying that.
I don't think there are whispers about that, though. Like, I don't know what the whispers part meant.
I wouldn't say whispers. I would say more of people are saying that, you know, it's a new regime. There's a chance.
It's an open question. Yeah.
It's an open question, yes. Why he's not going to go out and say, okay, let's play the kids. If we lose 20 games, and you know, 100%. He wants to win as many games as he can to say, hey, you know, we were right there. We were right there.
Here's the value I bring. Sure. We
were 2 or 3 games out of a playoff spot. And man, imagine if we just had a few more guys for me next year. We're going to make those playoffs easy. I don't know.
I don't know either. Missouri Apprentice says this is sad, and then Grant's face just dropped when he read that comment go up on the screen. But you know what? It is, and simultaneously, it's like, man, they're probably going to still win like 80 games this year, which is very underwhelming. But I do believe, to circle it back to what we were saying earlier, like, I don't think they're so far away that it can't be adjusted and fixed. But here's what I believe the Cardinals, and like, hopefully Chaim Bloom's on board with this. Hopefully ownership, you know, is willing to allow the people that are in positions of power beneath ownership to do it. But they got to refresh the entire, like, they've done some nice kind of in-stadium stuff for people to make Cardinals fans feel like it's fun to go to the ballpark. Like, I'll give them credit for that. It doesn't change the on-the-field stuff, but I think as an organization, the malaise is going to be lifted, and I think they need to be very intentional with how they approach winning fans back over. Because we've seen quotes from different, you know, ticket executives and people that have said, Randy Carricker shared it on our show that he spoke with somebody within the org who said, we understand we've got to win fans back over after, you know, the struggles of recent years. And I saw it in a Derek Gould article recently, kind of the same sentiment. What that looks like to me is something we haven't seen yet, and I wonder how well it'll go. But like, we don't know a lot about Chaim Bloom. I think it's getting Chaim Bloom out there in the public and doing the media tour and him being super personal. I don't know anything about him to know if that's going to work, but that would sure help, because I think fans want to see just something different, and they will accept if the record isn't different for a year or two, as long as it starts to feel different and feel like it's going to be different on the field at some point.
I think, too, the effort in the offseason needs to be different. I'm not saying you got to go sign guys to these huge contracts, but you need to sign more than one player. You need to at least show, hey, we're working on it. We're signing some cheap guys at least to get the fans something excited about, some players to see. If you trot out the same roster with some minor leaguers filled in, they're not going to be very excited once again.
Yeah. I also think, in addition to a couple free agents, just to kind of say, hey, and like, it doesn't have to be huge names, but like, let the names be something that fans feel like are going to fit the team and go, oh, that makes sense. I see why they did that. And then the players that are kind of clogging up the 40-man, the next guy can't be afraid to make moves. Trade somebody if he's not serving a purpose. If you have to resort to a DFA, then you do. You got to do a lot of that kind of stuff.
I would be shocked if we didn't see 3 to 5 trades from guys on the MLB roster right now. I don't know who it is, but I think there will be a lot.
I would say low. I would take the under on if you're saying 3 to 5. I would take under 3.5. But maybe a couple, and then 40-man trades, guys that aren't on the 26-man, but they're on the 40 that maybe don't need to be, because you're telling me there's a roster crunch. Okay, if that's true, use these guys on the 40 or find somewhere for them to go. Otherwise,
40 to get your cheap pieces in the MLB roster.
Sure.
I agree.
Absolutely. By the way, I just want to push back on one thing from Papa Smurf. He's talking about son of the coach. Dumb statement that the media makes. The only person that has said it tonight is you. I didn't say it. So why are you telling us about it? We're the media. We didn't say it, though. You want to talk about what chaps my khakis? It's people just say, well, the media says this. And it's like, no, the guy in the comments section did. We didn't even talk about that, but that's fine. It is what it is. Anything else major coming from this tonight, Grant? The Cardinals are going to continue this road trip in Florida. It's going off to George Steinbrenner Field, which is the minor league of the Yankees organization that the Rays are playing in. And then, I don't know, Nashville's going to have a team. There's a lot going on, but any parting thoughts for tonight on this episode of the Cards Central Postgame?
Hopefully they have some fun on a Saturday night off in Tampa. I don't know. It's a weird scheduling thing that they don't play.
It is
Saturday.
Weird. I'll be at a concert, so I do hope they have fun.
The fear of rain in the rainy season down in Tampa, they want to make sure there's at least one day off for to fill in.
That's not why.
I think it is.
No. The real reason that this is off,
and because they share a stadium with parking with Buccaneers.
It's the Buccaneers preseason game that they had to shift something. So like, I think it was going to be a different day off, and they had to shift it around or something. That's what, like, if this is going to be Thursday off, maybe. They play tomorrow, or are they off tomorrow?
They play tomorrow, yeah.
They play tomorrow. They weren't originally going to, I think, is the deal.
But I'll say they have an extra day for rain as well.
Okay, well, I think it was the Buccaneers thing. 2 more comments and we're out of here. Ace, no, Ollie doesn't ruin everything. I'll continue to push back on that. And that was in context of the conversation of like playing Jordan Walker and then he does well and then you sit him for 2 days. They have too many guys, not enough spots. And I don't know what Mo was offered for any of their left-handed bats at the deadline, but I would have traded one if it was anything close to reasonable to help kind of jumpstart the Chaim Bloom revamp that he's going to have to do. But maybe giving Chaim maximum flexibility was actually the right choice after all. And then Kakaw paid us $2 to share this, so he thinks Palante is a beer league starter. That's not very nice, and I like Andre Palante, but his ERA is 5.17. So you put your money where your mouth is. You paid $2, and I showed your comment on the screen, as I am happy to do. So I did not ban Papa Smurf, though. He's still commenting.
No, he's commenting again. He
comments all the time.
Tampa's beautiful.
It's never as serious. It's never as serious as it feels. There's only one person that I've really thought about banning, and he hasn't been here tonight. So he's not going to see this. He knows who he is. It's okay. I will challenge the commenters that deserve to be challenged, but Papa Smurf, I was mostly just ball busting, so I think it's okay. Wait a second. One more from Papa Smurf. Hey, you'll look like me if you talk till you're blue in the face. Thanks, Brendan. Okay, that's it for us tonight, guys. We're out of here. The Cardinals apparently do play tomorrow, so be tuned for that because the Buccaneers play Saturday, Grant, and that's why the Cardinals can't. So, in case you were confused,
surely it's an important regular season game, right?
What's that?
Surely it's an important, like big regular season opening game, right? For the Bucs?
It's a big game. It's a preseason game, so that means it's bigger than August baseball, apparently. At least in Tampa. No wonder. It's no wonder they have an issue with the whole stadium stuff. But anyway, that's it. Card Central Post Game brought to you by DraftKings, as is all content here on STL Sports Central, because the crown is yours. He's Grant. I'm Brendan. We'll see you tomorrow.